you need to consider whether a histogram, which is discussed in 2.1, or a time series graph would be more appropriate for displaying this data. And to help you decide if a time series graph is appropriate, look at page 59 in the textbook. Well, on page 59 it has several types of graphs and charts that can be used to display data, and time series is one of them, so you can read about whether it would be a good choice for this particular data. You need to compare dot plots and stem leaf displays. Make sure you compare how they're similar and how they're different. And here's page numbers where you can read up on both of those. You'll use the graph on the next page, page 73, to answer number 6. And part A just wants you to estimate the number of prisoners per 100,000 people for a couple years. That's what this graph is actually showing. It's the number of prisoners per 100,000 people. So for the years that they want you to estimate, just look at the graph. For example, if it said estimate for 1988, I would say 1988, the dot's right here, which looks like it's just under 250 people per 100,000. So my estimate would be 245. If your estimate was 246 or 247, 244, that's fine. It's just an estimation. Look at where the dot is and give the best reading you can of the number it represents. For part B, I want you to talk about the overall trend of the graph. Is the data showing an increase, a decrease, a constant number of prisoners? Is there really no pattern? What do you see from the graph that's happening over time? And then part C, it says that in 1997 there were 444 people in prison for every 100,000 people. So it wants you to translate that to how many total people are in prison if this was the entire population in 1997. And that's part 1, and then it also wants you to do a similar calculation for the year 2020, and it tells you a new projected population for the year 2020. So you're going to project how many people will be in prison in 2020. And the final problem on page 73 has 4 steps. Make sure you do all 4. Here's page numbers that can really help you get started with each of the steps. For the stem leaf in part A, you don't have to use Excel. You don't have to use Excel. You could use Word, but you can use Excel for all of these. It can help making a graph easier. If you want to, feel free to use Excel. But all a stem is you break the number up, and these are 2-digit numbers. So we're going to break off the left digit for the stem, and then the leaf would be the second digit in the number. So for example, the data on page 73, 46, you'd represent it by putting it right there after the 4. So this 6 here represents a 46. And then 16, you'd represent it with a 6 there. So the tens place is a 1, and then the next digit is a 6 for 16. 41, you'd represent it as, again, we're in the 4 column, so 40, the 40s, 41. So put all those numbers in a chart like this, and you've created a stem leaf. When you're doing the frequency table, you can use Excel for that too, or make a table in Word. Make sure you read the steps on how to make a frequency table to make sure you're starting at the right class width and the right class size. How to find the right class width is actually on page 41. So that could be something you may want to refer to as you're working through B. The whole 2.1 section really talks about how to make a histogram. So make sure you've read through that whole section and not just a little box on page 43, and it should help you set up the problem a lot better and get the correct answer. Let me know if you have any questions as you're working through these. I look forward to helping you.